Welcome students. We are starting today with chapter number 7, correction of errors. This is an extremely important topic for your examination because this is regularly tested. These are the objectives of this chapter which we will cover in two parts. Okay, you can pause and look at these objectives if you want. I'm not going to read these because we are going to do this anyways in the two parts we will be covering for this topic. In part 1, I will discuss those errors with you that do not affect the trial balance. Okay, you should be knowing what a trial balance is. Chapter number 6, you should do that before moving on to this chapter. So a trial balance, as you know, has a debit side and a credit side. So even if we make these errors, the debit and credit totals will be equal. Okay, even if we have made these errors. So these errors cannot be traced through the trial balance. And I will cover these in part 1 today with you. Then in part 2, I will discuss those errors which affect the trial balance, which means the totals will be different because of those errors that we make in part 2. So we have two types of errors that do not affect the trial balance and errors that affect the trial balance. Okay. So let's begin with part 1. First of all, what are errors? See, before you start with this topic, make sure you have a very good understanding of chapter number 3, the double entry system of bookkeeping. You should know the rules of debit and credit. Otherwise, there's no point starting with this topic. So make sure you have done this chapter in detail and you understand the rules of debit and credit. You know, when you read a transaction, you know what to debit and what to credit, and you can understand the transactions. Okay, so go through chapter 3 first. Now, errors in accounting are simply mistakes made when recording or processing financial transactions. So we make mistakes while we record things in our accounting record. So maybe let's say I sold goods for cash, sold goods for $500 cash. Now, if you have a good understanding of accounting, the rules of debit and credit and chapter number 3, you should tell me that cash should be debited by 500 and sales should be credited by 500, right? But if I debit cash by 500 and credit sales by 600, this is an accounting error. Okay. So these are the errors that we can make while recording transactions. So this is the error I have made. I've recorded cash as 500 but sales as 600 instead of 500. This is an accounting error. Okay. Let's move on. Part 1. Okay. These are those errors that do not affect the trial balance. Okay. This is from where the video is starting in a way. I was just giving you a general idea. Now pay attention and listen to me. And if you don't understand, go back, watch it again. And this is very important. So make sure you understand what's going on. Okay. So part 1, errors that do not affect the trial balance. In simple words, the trial balance totals will agree, not revealing the errors committed. For example, no entries have been made for cash sales of $100. Okay, so they're telling us that there was an error. We have not made any entries for cash sales of $100. If we made this entry, we will record it like this: cash debit by 100 and sales credit by 100, right? Chapter number 3, double entry system. You should know how to record transactions, what to debit, what to credit. If you don't know, I'm repeating one more time. Please go watch chapter number 3 first. Okay. So this is the entry that we should have made. We have made no entries. We forgot to record this. We forgot to make this entry. So as you can see, the trial balance is still balancing. The debits are equal to the credits, regardless of this error being made. This error made no impact on the trial balance totals. The debits are equal to credits, but in reality we have made an error. We forgot to record this transaction. If we recorded this transaction, the cash amount should now be 469 because 100 more will be added to that. So let me cut this. 469, and then the sales amount should also increase by 100. So sales will become 31350, and now the totals will become 50119 and 50119 on both sides. So the totals are still equal now, and the totals were also equal when we had made this error and not recorded these transactions. Why? Because we were missing 100 on debit and credit both. So it was balancing it out in a way. But it did not mean that there was no error in our accounting records. There was an error, and which we have corrected now. Now this is the corrected trial balance. Okay. So these types of errors which do not affect the totals of the trial balance. Okay. I hope you get an idea what I'm talking about. Now let's move on and discuss those errors one by one. See, these are the errors which do not affect the totals of the trial balance. I will discuss them with you one by one. Okay, I'm just reading the names first. The first error is error of omission. Then we have error of commission, error of principal, compensating errors, errors of original entry, and errors of complete reversal. So as you can see, these errors have a name. These are our named errors. We have given a name to these errors. So all the errors that have a name, they do not affect the trial balance totals. Okay. And you will get to know how and why one by one when I discuss these errors with you one by one. We will start with errors of omission first, and then I will explain it to you why these errors do not affect the trial balance and how do we correct these errors. Okay, first of all, the error of omission. Let us read the definition of this error first. This error occurs when a transaction is completely omitted from the books. It means that we forgot to make the transaction, just like I showed you here. One second, let me go back. No entries have been made for cash sales. So we forgot to record anything on the debit side, and we forgot to record anything on the credit side. No entry was made at all. Nothing on the debit side, nothing on the credit side. This is called error of omission. Okay, that's the definition of this error. Now, let's do an example and see how to correct this error. This one is the easiest to correct. I will tell you why. But let me show you why I have made these three columns and what I want to do here. Okay. So see, this original entry over here, okay, this is the entry that should have been if no error was made. Okay. The entry that should have been recorded if no error was made. Alright, then the wrong entry that we made by mistake. Okay, here we will show the wrong entry that we made. And finally, we will record the corrected entry. Okay, the entry required to correct the error. That we made. Okay, that's why we will use these three columns. I hope you understood now. Let me repeat. Here we will record the entry that should have been if no error was made. Then here we will record the wrong entry that we made by mistake. And then finally we will make the entry required to correct the error that we made. You will get an idea when we do examples of this, but I'm giving you the information regarding these three columns right now. Now let's go. I'll just use this part here and correct it. Now see, cash sales of $100. Okay, this is the transaction. One second, let me change the color. Cash sales of $100. This is the transaction. So just by reading this, we should know what to debit and what to credit. Our double entry should be strong. In accounting, we should have a very good understanding of chapter number 3, the double entry system. We should know by reading the transaction what to debit and what to credit. So debit, one second, this color is not looking nice here. Let's go back to black. Okay, so debit and credit. Now, cash should be debited by $100 and sales should be credited by $100. That's the correct entry or the original entry that should have been if no error was made. So, what is the wrong entry that we made in this case? We did not make any wrong entry because this was completely omitted from the books, which means we forgot to record the entry. When you forget to record the entry means you did not record anything. You did not record cash, you did not record sales, you did not record any amount in debit and credit. So error of omission is very easy to correct because the corrected entry will be the original entry, right? Because when you have made no mistake, you just forgot to record the transaction, you will just simply record this transaction now. When you have figured out, when you know that you forgot to record this, you will simply re-record, not re-record, I mean you will just record this transaction now, right? So cash and sales, this is the corrected entry. The original entry is the corrected entry in this case. So remember, for error of omission, the original entry is always the corrected entry as well because there was no wrong entry made. So there's no need to correct anything. You just make the entry now when you have discovered the error. Okay, when you know about the error, you just make the entry now and then we are done. We have corrected the mistake of not recording the entry in our books. Okay? You will get a better understanding of this column in the coming errors. Okay? In this error, we do not require this column, so it might be confusing, but it will be clear when I move on to the next error. Error of commission. Okay, let's read the definition first. When the correct amount is entered, both debit and credit, but in the wrong account of the same class. Okay, by the same class they mean it might belong to the class of assets or the class of liabilities or an expense, right? So these are the classes. So the error is made. We have recorded something in the wrong account but belonging to the same class. You will get a better idea when we read this example and explain this to you. See, a sale of $36 to M White. This is the transaction. Okay, just by reading this, you should have an idea what to debit and what to credit, right? You should be strong with the double entries. So we should debit M White because he becomes our trade receivable as we are selling goods to him on credit, and then sales will get credited by 36, right? This is the entry for this transaction, but we have made a mistake. Instead of recording this in M White's account, we have debited this to the account of S White. The name is similar, so you can make that error, right? In accounting, we do make errors, so it is possible. So what have we done? We have recorded it in the account of S White by mistake. We have debited S White and credited sales, even though the sales were made to M White. See, this is the error of commission. We have recorded it in the wrong account. Why? Because we were supposed to record this transaction in M White's account. But where did we record this? We have recorded this in S White's account. So it's in the wrong account. That's an error. But the class of these accounts is same. These are both trade receivables, your asset accounts, right? These are both our trade receivables, which is an asset account. So now let's read the definition. When the correct amount is entered, both debit and credit. So we have entered the correct amount, 36 on debit and credit. But in the wrong account, as you can see, it's the wrong account. Instead of M White, we have debited S White of the same class. Both are still our trade receivables, which is an asset account. See, this is what error of commission is. I have explained the error to you. Now I will show you how to correct this error. Okay, let's move on. Again, 3 steps. I will repeat one more time what these 3 columns are for. And then from the next error, I will not tell you why I have made these 3 columns. Okay, so please pay attention. In this first column, we will record the entry that should have been if no error was made. Okay, I'm writing it here. The entry, the double entry that should have been made if there was no error. Okay, then the wrong entry, the entry we recorded by mistake. Okay, this is the wrong entry that we have made, the entry that we have recorded by mistake. And then the corrected entry, the entry required to correct our mistake. Correct our mistake. ठीक है? It is always easier when you will do this in 3 steps. Otherwise, it will feel difficult and you might make mistakes in correcting these errors. So remember, it will be easier for you if you correct errors in 3 steps. Okay. So now let's read the transaction and see what the entry should have been if no error was made. Machinery purchased from J. Johnson on credit $6,700. The transaction ends here. Okay? Then after this they will talk about the error. So the transaction ends here. We should have that much sense to know what the transaction is and how to record this in our accounting books without making any mistake. We should be really good with the double entry system of bookkeeping, chapter number 3. Okay. So original entry. Debit, credit. See, machinery purchased from J. Johnson on credit. We are purchasing a machinery, but we are not paying by cash or through our bank. We are taking it on credit from J. Johnson. So the entry should be machinery debit, because machinery is an asset. When assets increase in our business, we record them on the debit side, 6,700 debit. And then J. Johnson is providing us this asset on credit, which means we are supposed to pay him later for this. He becomes our liability of 6,700. This is the original entry that we should have made if no error was committed. हमने क्या गलत किया? What did we do wrong? Let's read this. Machinery purchased from J. Johnson on credit 6,700 was entered in M. Johnson's account in error. The name is similar. We messed this up. ठीक है? See, nothing is mentioned about making a mistake in the machinery account, as you can see. So it means that machinery was debited. Okay, you should have an idea of this. The thing they're not talking about, for example, they're not telling you anything that machinery was entered wrongly or something like that. It means that machinery was recorded where it should have been recorded. So machinery was debited by 6,700, but it was entered in M. Johnson's account in error instead of J. Johnson. So M. Johnson was credited by 6,700. This is a very big mistake. Okay, because in reality, we owe 6,700 to J. Johnson. But in our books, we have recorded that we owe 6,700 to M. Johnson. Okay, it might create a lot of confusion later. So we have to correct this error once we discover this. Once this error is discovered, we will correct this. How? See, debit, credit. Simply compare these two transactions, the original entry and the wrong entry. In the original entry, we were supposed to debit machinery by 6,700, right? And in the wrong entry, we have debited machinery by 6,700. So this is fine. No correction is required for machinery. Machinery was supposed to be debited by 6,700. It was debited by 6,700 even when we made the wrong entry. So this is fine. Machinery is clear. But in the original entry, we should have credited J. Johnson so that we know that we had to pay him 6,700 later. He becomes our liability. Okay? We did not do that. So to correct this error, we have to credit J. Johnson now by 6,700. Right? Because we were supposed to do this. We were supposed to credit J. Johnson by 6,700. We did not do this. This is the wrong entry we made. We did not credit J. Johnson. So we are fixing the error now by crediting J. Johnson by 6,700. And what is the mistake that we made? We had credited M. Johnson by 6,700, which is wrong. There was no relation of M. Johnson with this transaction. Okay? We did not buy anything or sell anything to M. Johnson. So his account should have never been used. It was a mistake. So to correct our mistake, see, in the wrong entry, we credited M. Johnson by 6,700. So to make or to correct the mistake, we will simply debit J. Johnson by 6,700. This will bring his balance back to 0, right? 6,700 credit and 6,700 debit will cancel that out. Okay? For example, let me show you an example. For example, in cash T account, I have recorded 500 on the credit side by mistake. Okay? So how can I fix this error later? When I discover this, I will debit the account by 500. So these two will cancel each other out. The account balance because of that error is back to 0, right? So we have fixed the balance of M. Johnson's account. Okay, we credited him by mistake 6,700. We are debiting him now by 6,700 to correct that error. So one more time, see this. We compare these two transactions, the original entry and the wrong entry. The thing which is fine, for example, machinery was supposed to be debited. Machinery was debited even in the wrong entry. So forget this. It means we have done the working correctly for machinery. J. Johnson was supposed to be credited. So credit him now to fix that error. And M. Johnson was not supposed to be credited. So bring his balance back to 0 by debiting M. Johnson's account by 6,700. Okay? This is the corrected entry. All the marks are for this. This is your rough work. Okay? This is your rough work. This is also your rough work. You will only get marks for the corrected entry. Only this. So make sure you know how to make the corrected entries in your examinations. Okay? You will get marks only for this. So even if you don't want to do this rough work and you think you're good enough to directly make the corrected entry, you can do that. And in some errors, you can easily do that as well. But it is always better to follow these steps so that you don't make any unnecessary mistakes. Okay? Moving on to the next error. This is a difficult topic. It will take time. It will take practice. I'm correcting another error which is very much similar to this. Let me read that definition first and then you will understand. The next error is error of principle. Now read this. When the correct amount is entered, both debit and credit, but one of the entries is made in a wrong account belonging to a different class. Okay? Let's read this example first. Repairs to a motor vehicle. Okay? Repairs to a motor vehicle. What should the entry be for that? Motor vehicle repairs debit, because this is an expense. Expenses are always debit. And maybe cash credit if we paid by cash. 200, 200. For example, this is an example entry. Repairs to motor vehicles are debited to motor vehicle account. So instead of doing that, what we have done, motor vehicle debit and cash credit. So this is wrong because Motor vehicle repairs is an expense, whereas motor vehicle is a non-current asset. So this will make a huge difference in our accounting books if we make this mistake, right? It is an account belonging to a different class altogether. So this is called error of principle. It is corrected in the same way that we corrected error of commission just now. Okay? So let's read this example and then you will have a better idea. The payment of $45 for repairs to a machine had been entered in error in the machinery account. Okay, original entry first of all. See, the payment of $45 for repairs to a machine. Okay, $45, let's say cash. Cash or bank, whatever. But let's suppose it was cash. The payment of $45 for repairs to a machine. This is where the transaction ends. This is the original transaction. Okay, you should be having an idea of knowing where the transaction is ending, and then later they talk about the error. So ignore that for now. Just read the transaction and make the original entry first. The entry that should have been if no error was made. Okay. So debit and credit. When you pay for any expense by cash or through bank, the entry is that we debit the expense. So let's say machine repairs debit. Let me write properly, one second. Let's move this up. Okay. Machine repairs debit by how much? 45. The amount is given in the transaction. And then cash 45 credit. This is what the entry should have been if no error was made. So what's the error then? Let's read. The payment of 45 cash for repairs to a machine had been entered in error in the machinery account. Okay. So this is what we have made, or what we have recorded wrong. Machinery. $45. This is the mistake. They're not saying that the payment was recorded wrongly, or instead of cash it was recorded in the wrong amount. You should have an idea of what they're talking about. So instead of recording it as machinery repair, we have recorded it in machinery account. Machinery is an asset, whereas machinery repairs is an expense, right? So we have recorded in the wrong account belonging to a different class. This is the class of expenses. This belongs to the class of assets. So this is called error of principle. We have recorded the transaction in the wrong account, and the account also belongs to a different class. In the previous example, error of commission, the account was same. Okay, both were asset accounts. Okay, trade receivables account. In this case, the account type is also different. This is an expense account. This is an asset account. Okay, the amounts are entered correctly regardless of the error made. As you know, it was given in the definition that the amounts were recorded correctly, both debit and credit. Now, how will I correct this? Same way, just like I explained this to you in the last error of commission. We will use the same steps. See, in the original entry, the entry that should have been, we credited cash by 45. In the wrong entry, we have also credited cash by 45. So we have recorded cash correctly even in the wrong entry. So cash is done. We will not change anything. I'm crossing this out so that you don't get confused. We are done with cash. Cash was recorded correctly. Even in the wrong entry, it was recorded correctly. So we don't have to make any corrections regarding cash. Cash was supposed to be credited by 45. It was credited by 45 even in the wrong entry. Now, we were supposed to debit machinery repairs by 45. Did we? No, we did not. So in the corrected entry, first of all, I'm going to debit machinery repairs. By how much? By 45. And then, were we supposed to debit machinery by 45? No. We made a mistake. Machinery was not at all linked to the transaction. So to bring the balance back to zero, or to correct our mistake in the machinery account, we will credit machinery account by 45. And then the balance of machinery is back to zero, because see, machine, in this wrong entry, we debited machine by 45, which means plus 45 to machine, as when assets increase, they are debited. Now we are correcting the mistake by crediting machinery. So when assets are credited, their values decrease. So minus 45 plus 45 minus 45 will fix the error and bring the balance of machinery back to zero. So we have corrected the error, right? See, remember the steps. Compare original entry with the wrong entry. The thing we have done correctly in the wrong entry as well, which is cash was supposed to be credited. It was credited in the wrong entry as well. So this is fine. You can cut this out. We don't have to make any changes for cash. But then look at the original entry. We were supposed to debit machinery repairs. Did we do that in the wrong entry? No. So do that now. Machinery repairs debited by 45. And machinery was accidentally debited by 45. So to bring it back to zero, you will credit machinery by 45. Okay? Do the opposite of what you did in the wrong entry. Moving on to compensating errors. Okay. This is when two or more errors cancel each other out. For example, when the sales account is overcast by 30 and the purchase account is also overcast by 30. Okay. New term, overcast. But I've written here in brackets over added. Let me explain this to you first before moving on. Overcast. Overcast simply means over adding an amount in any account. For example, we have made sales of $200 in reality, but by mistake we have recorded sales as $230. This is called overcasting or over adding an amount. Okay, this is wrong. The actual amount of sales is 200. We have over added this by $30. We have overcast the account by $30. Okay, this is called overcasting. On the other hand, there is another term, undercast. Undercast means recording it at a lower value than it should have been. For example, the sales were worth $200, but by mistake, we have recorded sales in our books as $150. This is called undercasting or under recording, right? Because the actual value of sales is $200. We are recording it 50 less. So we are recording sales as 150. This is a mistake. This is called undercasting. So these two terms will be regularly used in correction of errors questions. So you should have an understanding of these terms. I hope you have now, so that you can easily correct the errors. Okay. Now, compensating error. This is when two or more errors cancel each other out. For example, when the sales account is overcast by 30 and the purchase account is also overcast by 30. In this case, both are overcast, over added. So let me read the transactions first. Cash sales $200. You should be knowing what to debit and what to credit for this transaction. When we sell goods, we receive cash. So cash debit, and sales is an income, sales credit. And transaction 2, cash purchases $100. When we purchase goods, purchases are an expense, so purchases debit by 100. One second, let me leave some space for working. Purchases debit by 100, and then when you purchase goods, you pay cash. So cash decreases in your business. When assets decrease, we record them on the credit side. So cash credit by 100, right? These are the transactions that should have been. But what mistake we have made? The sales account is overcast by 30. So instead of recording sales as 200, we have recorded sales as $230. And purchase account is also overcast by 30, which means instead of recording purchases as 100, we have recorded purchases as 130. Okay? So we have made two separate errors. This is transaction 1, this is transaction 2. We have made one error in transaction number 1 and the other error in transaction number 2. Okay? But these errors will compensate each other. That's why they are called compensating errors. See, these errors will cancel each other out. It means that even though we have made 2 errors, the debit side and credit side of the trial balance will still be the same. Matlab, the balance will be same. The amounts are same. Okay? Even if there are 2 errors hidden in this, as you can see, sales of 200 are recorded as 230 and purchases of 100 were recorded as 130. Still, the debit side is equal to the credit side in the trial balance because these errors have cancelled each other out. The debits are still equal to the credits. How? See, when we made error in this, 1 second, let me change the color. Okay, the credit side, you know the rule of accounting, for every transaction the debit side should be equal to the credit side. In this case it is not. The credit side is heavier by 30. So due to this error, the credit side should have been 30 more than the debit side, right? But we also made another error in transaction 2 and recorded purchases as 130 instead of 100. So in this error, the debit side is 30 more by mistake. Okay? So debit 30 more in this and credit 30 more in this, they cancel each other out. So we cannot find these errors on the trial balance. Even if we correct them, the trial balance, even though the final values will change obviously of the totals, but it will still balance. Debits will be equal to credits. See, let me show you how. So let's fix this. Let's fix this now. Sales should have been recorded by 200 instead of 230. So let's subtract 30 from this. The actual value of sales should be 31220. All right. And then do the same with purchases. The purchases should also be 18300. Now what will happen because of this? This will just reduce the balance of debit and credit by 30 on both sides. So 50019 minus 30. The balance of this side will become 49989 and this side will also become 49989. Once we correct these errors, these are the new or actual balances of the debit and credit side which are equal. But even when we had made this error, the debits and credits were equal because these errors cancelled each other out. The debit side was heavier by 30 because of this error that we made in transaction 2 and the credit side was heavier by 30 because of this error that we made in transaction 1. So both cancelled each other out. Trial balance was still equal, right? So these are compensating errors. We cannot trace these by trial balance and I've shown you why, but still these are errors and we have to correct them, okay, to fix our accounting records. Okay, moving on to the example of a compensating error. See, this error is very easy to correct. You don't have to make the original entry. You don't have to make the wrong entry. You can simply make the corrected entry. Why? Because it's very clear. They're telling us that sales journal was undercast by 750, which means you have recorded sales 750 less than it should have been. So you know sales is an income. When incomes increase, we should record them on credit. So fix that. Record 750 more in sales now to correct the error. When you have under added sales by 750, you just add 750 now and correct the error. Office expense account was also undercast by 750. Expenses are debited when they increase. Dead click chapter 3. Your chapter 3 should be very strong. So if office expenses were under added by 750, to fix that now, I will add 750 in the office expenses account. So I will debit office expenses by 750 and we are done directly with the corrected entry. So see, this is so fast. This is easy to correct. But to give you a proper idea of what's actually going on in accounting records, I will also show you the original entry and wrong entry and how we came to this corrected entry. But you don't have to know all that. You can simply make the corrected entry for a compensating error like this. Just fix the mistakes they're telling you about and you're done. Okay. Now, I will still show you the original entry and wrong entry. Let's take an example first. Okay. I'm writing two transactions here to give you a better idea. Sold goods worth $1,000 cash. Okay, that's transaction number 1. You know, compensating error is when two transactions cancel each other out and then you cannot trace those errors in the trial balance. And then transaction number 2, let's suppose, was paid office expenses $2,000 cash. So these are the two transactions. What should the original entries be for these transactions? You should be knowing that. Chapter 3, debits and credits. I repeat one more time. Your debits and credits should be very strong. You should know how to make double entries from a transaction. So sold goods worth $1,000 cash. We are getting cash. Cash is an asset. When assets increase, we debit them. Sales is an income. It is increasing in the business. When incomes increase, we record them on the credit side. This is the entry for transaction number 1. Transaction number 2. Paid office expenses $2,000 cash. Office expenses. Whenever expenses incur, we record them on the debit side. Dead click. So 2,000 office expenses debit, and we are paying back cash. Cash is an asset. When assets decrease, we record them on the credit side. So 2,000. These are the original entries for these transactions. But what did we do wrong? They have told us what we did wrong. Okay? Sales journal was undercast by 750, which means cash was recorded correctly, but sales were undercast by 750, means you recorded sales by 250 only. Okay? Under added by 750. So you recorded sales as 250 instead of 1,000. So these are under added. 1,000 minus 750, 250. Okay? This is called undercasting or under recording. So we have under recorded sales by 750. Okay? Now on the other hand, transaction 2, office expense account was also undercast by 750, which means cash was credited by 2,000, which is fine, but the office expense account was undercast by 750, means you did not record this as 2,000. By mistake, you have recorded 750 less, which means you have recorded this account as 1250. Why? Because let me use my calculator. 2,000 minus 750 gives me 1250. So I have undercasted office expense account by 750, they have told us, which means I recorded office expenses as 1250 only. So how will I fix these two errors? See, sales was supposed to be recorded as, one second, let me change the color to show you. Sales were supposed to be recorded as 1,000 on credit. By mistake, we have recorded only $250 credit for sales. So to fix that, I need to add 750 more to the sales account, and that's what I'm doing in the corrected entry over here. I'm crediting sales by 750 to fix the records in my accounting books, in my T accounts, right? And then I'm doing the same thing for office expense. Office expense was supposed to be recorded as 2,000. By mistake, we have under added and recorded this as 1250 only. So to fix that, now we are recording office expenses by 750. Okay? To bring the balance back to 2,000, because 1250 plus 750 will bring the office expenses amount back to 2,000. See, this is how we correct compensating errors. There's no need to do all this. This was just to show you, give you an idea. Okay? They will not even give you these transactions. I made these myself. Okay? Just to give you an idea what undercast and overcast is. Okay? So ignore all this and just focus on making the corrected entry directly. Let me erase all this and tell you one more time. See, sales journal was undercast by 750. You should know. One second, let me change the color to black now. Sales journal was undercast by 750. It means sales journal was recorded 750 less than it should have been. So to fix that, you will record 750 in the account of sales. Sales is an income. When incomes increase, we record them on the credit side. So we are increasing sales by 750. And then office expense account was also undercast by 750, means you have to increase the office expense account by 750 more. Office expenses is an expense account. When you want to increase expenses or when expenses increase or incur, we record them on the debit side. Take a dead click, rules of debit and credit. So office expense will get debited by 750. Okay? So just correct the error they're telling you about. No need to make the original entry or the wrong entry. That's it for compensating errors. I hope it is clear. Otherwise, watch it again. It's a difficult topic. You will have to watch it again. Do that. Okay? You can also ask me questions anytime. I will give you proper examples. I will make my own examples and explain it in a better way if you're still having problems. Moving on. Error of original entry. Okay. This error occurs when an incorrect figure was used to record a transaction, both debit and credit. In simple words, you mess up the amount on the debit side as well as the credit side by the same amount. Okay? By the same amount. For example, sales of 200 to Ahmed. See, your double entry should be quick now. Ahmed debit 200 and sales credit 200. Okay? This is the entry that should have been. Were recorded as $100 in the sales journal. What is sales journal? It's a book of prime entry, chapter number 5. Go through that if you don't know. So if you make a mistake in the sales journal, you will mess up both accounts of Ahmed as well as sales. Why? Because we make accounts from the sales journal. We just record things in the sales journal in the form of the list and then later make accounts. So when you mess up things in the sales journal, it means by mistake you've recorded this transaction like this. Ahmed debit by 100 and sales credit by 100. So as you can see, you have messed up the amount in both debit and credit side. But still the debits are equal to the credits. So it will not reflect in the trial balance. You cannot find this error by looking at the trial balance. Okay? Now, see this, one more thing. The accounts are correct. Okay? We were supposed to debit Ahmed. We have debited the account of Ahmed, and we were supposed to credit sales. We have credited the account of sales. Okay. So the accounts are fine. The sides are fine, but the amounts are wrong. Both debit and credit. As you can see, wrong. It should be, it should be 200 and we have recorded this as 100. So this is wrong. Sales should also be 200 and we have recorded this as 100. So it's wrong. The amounts are wrong, but the accounts are correct and the sides are also correct. Okay? Moving on. Okay. Examples. Let's correct error of original entry. I will do that for both transactions. Let me move this here and start with the working. First of all, we have to make the original entry. A purchase of 350 from Kela. The transaction ends here. You should be knowing that by now. And stop reading at this point. Okay? And make the original entry. Because after that, they will tell you about the error, which we have to make in the wrong entry. So stop here and then make the entry. A purchase of 350 from Kela. Okay. So you are purchasing goods. When we purchase goods, purchases is an expense. Let me change to black. Okay. Purchases is an expense. Expenses are always debited when they are incurred. So purchases debit by how much? 350. And we are purchasing goods from Kela on credit, obviously, because it's not written that we are buying for cash or through or we are making a payment through check. So Kela is credited by 350. She becomes our trade payable, a liability. Liabilities when the increase are recorded on the credit side. Okay? Now let's read the error now. had been entered in error both debit and credit as 250. Okay, so very simple. They're not saying we are recording it in the wrong account or we have messed up the accounts. They're just saying we have recorded the incorrect amounts. So this is error of original entry. When you record things in the correct accounts but wrong values are used in both debit and credit. So we have recorded this as 250 and 250 by mistake. Very easy to correct this, right? Purchases account was supposed to be 350. We have recorded it as 250. So to fix that, all you have to do is add 100 more to the purchases account. So the corrected entry would be purchases 100, because we have to add 100 more to the purchases account. Purchases were supposed to be 350. We accidentally recorded purchases as 250. So we have to increase the expense by 100 more. So I'm debiting purchases by 100 to fix that. 250 plus 100. Now the amount is correct and the correction has been made. The purchases amount is back to where it should be, 350. Do the same thing for Kela. Kela was supposed to be credited by 350. Our liabilities should have been 350. We recorded Kela as 250. So instead of recording our liability, the amount that we owe Kela, as 350, we have recorded this by mistake as 250. So to fix that, how much more do we have to record in Kela's account? 100 more. So that's what I will do now. Kela, and record 100 more on the credit side of our account to increase the liability and bring it to 350. This is how you correct errors. You have to think a bit. You have to look at the entries. You have to see what changes are required to make the correction. You will not write purchases 350 and Kela 350 here. That will be wrong then. Okay. You just have to make the necessary change. I will tell you why that will be wrong. 1 second. See. We just let me tell you about purchases first. Okay. We were supposed to record purchases as 350 in our books. Okay. Purchases kya hai? It is an expense. By mistake, we have recorded purchases as 250 in our books. So how much more do I need to add to make this 350? I simply have to add only 100 more to this, and that's what I have done. Okay? If I recorded it as purchases 350 in the corrected entry, purchases 350, that would be wrong. Why? Because I have already recorded purchases as 250. If I furthermore record it by 350, purchases figure will be wrong. It will become 600. Were purchases 600 in the original entry? No. Okay? So we have to only make the correction required. We don't have to remake the original entry here. I will not write purchases 350 and Kela 350. That will mess up the balances because this entry is already made. I just have to make the necessary change to this in order to make the correct figure required in our books. Okay? Now erasing this and doing it the other way around, because I have given you both examples. Now see, a purchase of 350 from Kela. Okay, same entry, purchases 350 debit and Kela 350 credit. This is the entry. Had been recorded in error both debit and credit as 530. Okay, purchases and Kela are both recorded debit and credit as 530 instead of 350. Okay, this time we have over added. So we have to reduce the amount. We have to bring purchases back to 350 from 530. Okay, we were supposed to record purchases as 350, but by mistake we have recorded purchases as 530. This is wrong. So I need to bring this amount back to 350. So I have to subtract something out of this. So 530 minus 350, 180. See, purchases are over recorded by how much? By $180. Okay, they are over added by 180. So I need to remove $180 from the purchases account. Purchases, when they increase, are recorded on debit. So to reduce the amount of purchases by 180, I will credit purchases account by 180 now. Okay? And then Kela. Kela is a liability. Let me explain it for Kela as well. Kela kya hai? Kela is our liability. We need to pay her this amount back. We were supposed to pay her $350. Accidentally in our books we have recorded that we owe her 530, which is wrong. We owe her only 350. So the extra amount that we have recorded, how much extra is recorded? Let's see. 530 minus 350. We have recorded 180 extra. So we need to reduce the balance of our account by 180. When liabilities increase, we record them on credit side. So to decrease liabilities, we will have to debit Kela by 180. Now this is fine. Let me show you how this is fine. See, this is the wrong entry that we made. We recorded purchases as 530. Okay. Now in the corrected entry, we are reducing purchases by 180. Matlab we are subtracting 180 from the purchases account. So 530 minus 180 brings purchases back to $350, which is fine, which is what we needed in the original entry, as you can see. Okay. Similarly for Kela, we have done the same thing. Kela was recorded by mistake as 530. So we are subtracting 180 out of this value or out of our account. So 530 minus 180 is giving me 350. So by doing this, by debiting Kela by 180, I have subtracted 180 out of this 530. Kela's amount is back to what it should be, which is 350 credit. Okay? This is how we correct error of original entry. Our aim is to bring the correct values of the accounts in the question. 1 second. Okay. So let me repeat this. Our aim is to correct the errors that we are making. It is not to just re-record the original entry, because we have already made a wrong entry. So we will just make changes to this to bring the amounts back to what they should have been. So if we recorded 530 purchases by mistake, we will subtract 180 out of that to bring it back to 350, which is the original amount that should have been. Simple. Now moving on to the last one, which is error of complete reversal. Okay. As you can guess from the name, let me read this. This error occurs when the correct amounts are used, but double entries are made on the wrong side of the accounts concerned. For example, Mason paid business 350 by check. Okay. I just wrote this here so that I remember to use this example. See, what is complete reversal? Debit and credit. First of all, by reading this transaction, you should know what to debit and what to credit. The business is receiving a check of $350 from Mason. So bank will get debited because money is coming into the bank account. Bank is an assets. When assets increase, we debit them. And Mason was maybe our trade receivable. He's paying us now. So value of trade receivables is going down. When trade receivables is also an asset, when assets decrease, we record them on the credit side. So this is what the entry should be for this transaction. I hope you know the entries. If you don't know, please go through chapter number 3 in detail first. Okay. So complete reversal means we have messed up not the amounts. The amounts were still 350 and 350, but what was supposed to be debited was credited by mistake. So bank, instead of debiting bank, we have credited bank. And instead of crediting Mason, we have debited Mason. This is called error of complete reversal. We have messed up the accounts. ठीक है? इसको हमने, instead of debiting bank, we have credited bank. And instead of crediting Mason, we have debited Mason. So this is called error of complete reversal. We have switched the accounts. The debit account has been credited and the credit account has been debited. Okay. Now how to correct these errors? Okay, cash sales of $500. Okay, the transaction ends here. So just when you read this, you should make the original entry by now, debit and credit. Cash is debited by 500 because when you sell goods, cash increases in the business, right? So cash क्या हो रहा है? Increase हो रहा है by 500. So cash debit, because when assets increase, we debit them. And sales is an income, and income is also increasing in your business. So sales are credited by 500. This is the original entry. Let's see what error did we make. Cash sales of $500 were debited to sales. Okay. So instead of crediting sales, what have we done? We have debited sales account by 500 and credited to the cash account. So cash is credited by mistake. This is complete reversal. As you can see, the entries have been completely reversed, right? Now, how do we correct this entry? Take a moment and think. We were supposed to record this. We have recorded this. How will I correct this entry in my books? Okay? Some of you might be thinking that all we have to do is just do this cash debit by 500 and sales credit by 500 and you're done. No, this is wrong. Take a moment and think why this is wrong, and then I will explain it to you in like 5 seconds. You can think. Okay, see this. In the original entry, if we did not make any error, we were supposed to increase cash in our records by 500, right? What was our aim? Due to this transaction, cash should increase by 500, right? But in the wrong entry, what have we done? We have actually decreased cash by 500 by mistake. Okay? We have decreased cash. Instead of increasing cash, we have decreased cash. Now let's say cash balance was 10,000 before this transaction. Cash ka balance kya tha? Cash balance was 10,000 before this transaction. So we were supposed to bring this balance to 10,500 after this transaction, right? Because cash is increasing by 500. We were supposed to do this. In red, I will write what we did. 1 second. Okay. What we did is that we decreased cash by 500. So we have made cash figure 9,500. Instead of making it 10,500, what have we done? We have actually decreased cash by 500 and made the figure 9,500. So to bring it back to what it should be, you will have to add $1,000 to the cash account to fix this. Why? You will have to add, 1 second. You will have to add 500 to bring the amount back to 0. Okay? Because you have decreased it by 500 when it was not supposed to decrease. So adding 500 will bring the amount back to 0. And then add 500 more to record the cash sales. Okay? The first 500 is added to correct the mistake that we made for decreasing cash, and then the next 500 is added to actually record the cash received by selling our goods. So the overall impact is of $1,000. So the entry should be cash debit by 1,000. Okay, and similarly, same thing for sales. Instead of increasing sales by 500, we decreased sales by 500. So to fix that and correct the error, we have to credit sales account by 1,000. This is how we correct error of complete reversal. Okay? It is very easy to correct. I will also tell you a shortcut now how to correct this error. I have explained this to you, that why we make this entry, but now I am giving you a shortcut as well. Okay, which you can use in your exam. You don't have to know the original entry, wrong entry and all that. You must know the original entry, but even if you don't understand the wrong entry, it's fine. Whenever you see this complete reversal, which means you have messed up what to debit and what to credit, and you have reversed the entries, all you have to do is see. cash sales of $500. Let me give you another example to show that. ठीक है? Let's say, let me write it here. Machine purchased for $2,000 cash, comma, had been credited to machine account and debited to cash account. Okay, so this is the transaction. This is the error we have made. So reading the transaction, let's make the original entry first. Machine purchased for $2,000 cash. Machine is an asset. When you purchase assets, you debit them. So machine will be debited by 2,000, and then cash. When you pay by cash, your cash decreases. Cash credited by 2,000. Okay. I'm not making the wrong entry. I'm directly making the corrected entry. Whenever you get error of complete reversal, all you have to do is rewrite the original entry. I'm telling you the shortcut. Machine. Rewrite the original entry and just double the values. So debit by 4,000 and cash credit by 4,000, and you're done. Okay. Rewrite the original entry. What should have been debited should be debited, and what should have been credited should be credited, and then simply double the amounts. And as I've explained this to you here, that why do we double the amounts, and as you can see, cash was supposed to be debited, cash is debited, sales were supposed to be credited, sales were credited, the amounts were 500 and 500, we have doubled the amounts to 1,000 and 1,000. Okay, so this is the shortcut you can use. I've also given you the explanation that why the amounts are doubled, but even if you don't remember that, it won't make a difference. Okay, this was the 6th error, and then that's it for part 1. We will continue with part 2, in which I will cover the errors that affect the trial balance. In this, we will also discuss the suspense account and when it is made and how to balance it in the end and how to bring the totals. I mean, how to correct the errors and close the suspense account. Thank you.